Hello and welcome to another video from thefanpub.com. On my own today, Sean's not with me. What I'm producing here is a value list of players that I like for the Week 1 DraftKings game. So you'll not see anyone above $6,000. So you can pick your own stars yourself. They're the easy ones. It's finding that value where you need to find a player just to meet the budget. Right, starting with quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson screams value. He just gets in on the 6,000 budget. Baltimore at Miami. Miami are going to be horrible this year. Their offense won't be able to stay on the field. Baltimore will be running the ball all day with a run-pass option with Lamar Jackson, Justice Hill and Mark Ingram. And I just fancy them. He's obviously a dual threat. I think his throwing should improve this year as well. Every chance of running in a couple of touchdowns. Booking for a good week. Dak Prescott, New York Giants at Dallas. Obviously, he was a top 5 QB last year when Amari Cooper joined. Zeke's just signed a contract. Confidence is going to be high. He's a lot better. Zeke's going to be on the field. He's a lot better when Zeke's on the field. Just one slight worry is the Amari Cooper. Just double check he's playing. Obviously, I would swerve if for any reason Amari is a late. He's out for whatever reason. So Dak Prescott. It's an A-Dolls rivalry. Dallas will be looking to start strong at home. Buoyed by the Zeke signing, and I think Dak's a good play at 5.9. Now, Blake Bortles is obviously horrible for Jacksonville, and Nick Foles is a lot better QB, and he's been priced up at Blake Bortles' price. They've got the Chiefs. Chiefs were an awful defense last year, brilliant offense. So to try and keep up with Patrick Mahomes and the like, Jacksonville have to get a throw all day. If you're really looking for that cheap quarterback guy that could give you a bit of an upside later on, then Nick Foles could be your guy. Moving on to number 4, Jacoby Brissett. I'm not a really big fan of the matchup at Indianapolis at the Chargers, but he's a starting quarterback and he's priced up with all these sort of backups. This is for the Millionaire Maker competition. If you actually do the Sunday to Monday game, the 15 games or whatever it is, 13 games, he's actually priced at 5,300 now, but I don't think they can change a Millionaire Maker because obviously people had already entered and entered him in teams. So the value's there. I mean, he's already at 5,300. That tells you it's 900 out, so you're getting a bargain. But it's only if you're looking for that very cheap player to complete your lineup where you've loaded up elsewhere. Okay, moving on to running backs. The first player I like, Dalvin Cook, screamed absolute value at 6,000. He's on that sort of level where we said we're not going to have anyone above 6,000. Atlanta were the worst team against the run last year. Minnesota are going to say they're going to run the ball a lot more this year. They look like they've got a lot better O-line. Dalvin Cook's fit. He's a 3-down back. Atlanta are a good scoring team, so expect the points to continue there. And he looks good. Now, for anyone who's watched the channel this year, you'll know that Chris Carson is one of my guys. He's one of my favourite picks. I think he's been underrated all year. Seattle run the ball a ton. They said they're going to. He's by far the best back. He's much better than Penny. And like I say, they run the ball a ton. They said they're going to feature him more in the passing game. And for 5,700, I think he's an absolute bargain. So go and get a few shares of him. The third player is LaShawn McCoy. I'm a bit worried about how much he'll play in this first week, but it's a great to have any part of that offense, especially for cheap. 4,600 is cheap as chips. He could well have a role. He's got that upside, but obviously the floor could be low depending on how much he plays. But KC always score high, so it's worth having a few shares of those where you can get them. Now, this next price, as you'll know again, Matt Breeder, one of my guys, is absolutely criminal. 4,000. I don't get it at all. I don't know who does this thing. They must be blind. Matt Breeder had more 10-yard rushes than anybody else last year. He rated first in Pro Football Focus's chart of catches by running backs. He had the best rating. They just announced the official 49ers depth chart. He's top, not Coleman. Coleman's been drafted ahead of him all year. It's an absolute insult. Go and make sure they pay. Get lots of shares of him. Get him in your lineups. It's a good matchup. I mean, they're playing Tampa Bay as well. I mean, it couldn't be any better, really, to be honest. I think I'll have a lot of shares of him in my teams this weekend. The fifth one, Justin Jackson, obviously Indianapolis at LA Chargers. Again, he's cheap. He's going to be sharing the backfield with Austin Eckler. He put up some pretty good numbers when Melvin Gordon was out. Obviously, by some miracle Gordon's back, then you wouldn't play him. But at 4,000, you've got to start in running back, and you can load up your team elsewhere and just pick up this bargain and put him in, in your last slot, perhaps in your flex. Miles Sanders again. He's stupidly priced, 3,900. Washington at Philadelphia, so he's obviously. I think he's Philadelphia's best bet by a mile. They will run a committee, but I think he's going to be too good to play the keep off the field, and he's cheap. I mean, first week we really don't know how it's going to go yet, but I think he's a lot better than anyone else there. So they might ride the hot hand. They will have others involved. They'll have Clement involved. They'll have Jordan Howard involved. But at 3,900, looks a bargain price. So you're not losing too much if he doesn't fire. Okay, moving on to the wide receivers. First one is Tyler Boyd, 5,800, Cincinnati at Seattle. And it's mainly because there's no AJ Green. They're going to have to throw to keep up with Seattle. Seattle are going to try and grind them into the ground. So Tyler Boyd's the number one in AJ Green's absence. So 5,800 for a number one wide receiver that's going to have to throw a bit. Looks good value to me. Cooper Kupp, obviously, 5,700. He's actually my favourite Rams wide receiver of the three, I think. Obviously, he was lost to the season with an ACL injury last year. 5,700. Plays in the slot. I think the Rams really missed him when he was out the team at the end of the year with injury, and he's going to catch a lot of passes this year. Let's hope he's back to his best, and that looks a very, very good price for the first week of. I could see that rising in future weeks. Mike Williams, another favourite, one of my favourite players of mine. 5,300, cheap as chips. I've left $1 off, but who cares? Indianapolis LA Chargers. Now, I've put him in because I think he's a great player. He scored 11 touchdowns last year, 10 catching, 1 rushing. Keenan Allen's been injured. He's a slight doubt for this game. So I can see them targeting Mike Williams a lot. And I think he's cheap as well. So, what's not to like about that? He's not really known for a lot of catches, I guess, but I think this year we might see a different and even bigger step up. So got high hopes for him, and he's a bargain price, so you're not losing too much if he doesn't. Okay, number 4 is a legend. Okay, he had a down year last year, probably one of the lowest receiving yards of his career, I believe it was. But that was with Rosen. Obviously, it's going to be it's a first start for the QB, and that's a worry, I suppose. But I believe in Kyler Murray. We don't know how good he'll be first week, but Larry Fitzgerald's got to be the first target every time, and they're playing the Lions, who aren't particularly great. So there's every chance at that price he can return you points. For the same reason here, Marvin Jones, same game, but for the Lions. Arizona have Patrick Peterson out, and they have their other corner out, so they've got nobody to guard Marvin Jones. So that's basically their fourth choice corner. I'll be marking Marvin Jones, and he's a good player, and he's cheap. So I can see him really outrunning those sort of that price. Fifth one, he's at John Brown, 4,300 again, starting receiver. Josh Allen's got a big arm. John Brown's a big downfield threat, so you've got that real upside of a long touchdown. Get those bonus yards. Possibly for, I think he is somebody. He's always good and he gets open. And if Josh Allen can see him, and if they have the chemistry, then at that price it could be very decent. Marquise Goodwin is the last one on the list. Okay, he sort of fell out of favour last year with the injuries. He's constantly injured, but he is currently fit and he's currently listed as starter. They've got Tampa Bay, and at 4,000, if you're looking for a really cheap player, then he could be one to watch. Now, those are your wide receivers. Let's moving on to the tight end. OJ Howard, again, another player who was injured last year. Again, looking at that Tampa Bay, San Francisco. Winston's going to throw a ton this year. You expect heavy coverage on Mike Evans. And that could leave the way open for OJ Howard. 5,000 for them. Evan Ingram, Giants came out the other day and said he was going to be a big part of their offense this year. Most of their receivers have been injured all off season, all pre-season. Sterling Shepard had a broken thumb. He's obviously the other one that might be. But 4,800, he might be worth a shot. They've got to throw to somebody. Your third player, Mark Andrews, seems criminally low, 3,000. They're playing Miami as well. Nice matchup. And he's somebody who's been getting a lot of sort of fantasy attention this off-season. And, at 3,000, why not give it a shot? Let's see how good he is. You can load up elsewhere on your team. The last three basically are just players that are really cheap if you don't really value tight end. Jeff Swaim's a starter at Jacksonville. They've got KC. They've got a pretty porous defence. Will Disley, he's back for Seattle. We don't know how big his sort of role will be, but it's not going to cost you anything to find out. And then I put Dallas Goedert in as well because I like Dallas Goedert. Philly said they're going to use him and Ertz and a two tight end sets. Expected to be targeted more this year. And as I said previously, I think if he does have a quiet first half of the season, I think if you've got dynasty teams, go and trade for him because he's going to be a beast in future years. I'd say OJ Howard maybe the top guy is a little bit dear with Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are going to take all the attention away and it might leave the door open for Howard. So, okay, moving on finally to the defences. Seattle Seahawks, 3,100 seems quite a good deal. They've got a really good front seven now. They've got Cincinnati, who are on the road, and they've got no AJ Green. I think it just looks a nice matchup, doesn't it? Now, New York Jets, if you might like, what? The Jets? And I just think they're going to be a lot better team. They've got a lot better offense. Bell could make a right difference to them and keep them on the field quite a bit, the Jets. And they're not a bad defense either. So I think, again, I'll probably favour Seattle at the price, but they are at home against Buffalo, who were like not one of the worst three offenses in the league. So, it's a toss up between those two. And again, just in case Kyler Murray has a nightmare, that O-line looks horrible. Detroit Lions, 2,900. You could see them maybe forcing a couple of turnovers or getting a few sacks because the line's just horrible. So anyone against Arizona is probably going to be value. But for under 3,000, then it certainly catches your attention, doesn't it? So they're my tips for cheap players. Like I say, I've not put any big ones there. I quite like Lev Bell at his price, but he's over the 6,000 limit. So these are just bargains that you might add to your team that it's good if you're looking through a list. If someone actually points out, well, actually, yeah, that's a good pick and he's really cheap, then, you can add it to your team. You don't miss it. It's really annoying if you're playing somebody against somebody and they spot somebody for cheap and you think, how did I miss that? So hopefully this has helped you out. Obviously, let me know in the comments if you've got any favourite players or any favourite prices because I will be playing this weekend. So if you spot anyone I've missed, then let me know because it's all about winning money at the end of the day, isn't it? So if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.